Okay, so we start Lifecycle Insights with a primary integration. So we're aiming for your company's contacts and assets, and we grab these from one of the following: ConnectWise Manage, Autotask, Halo, Synchro, IT Glue, and as of last weekend, Hoodoo. So we take that primary integration, we go out again, grab your company's contacts and assets, pull them back, and then we do warranty lookups on Dell, Lenovo, HP, Microsoft Surface, Cisco, Meraki, and SmartNet. So we do that so that we can clean up your data. You can see here I have a data quality score for this particular client, Creative Designs, in my dropdown. And we're aiming to give you insights into when your assets are at end of life or when their warranties are at end of life. So I'm going to click into the asset list. And this is what you would hope to see, right? Rows and columns of all of your assets, red, yellow, green, easy reporting for when things are expired. If you look at this operating system column in the middle, you'll see we call these swatches. So I've got a blue, green, yellow, and red swatch, and I can swatch away the colors I don't want to have in my report. So I just want those assets that have expired operating systems. I could take those assets, grab them all, create a recommendation from here. Now, I'll talk more about where we can build those recommendations later, but just know that that's one way you could land on an asset list. This particular report, upper right, you can schedule to land in your inbox or your client's inbox with a scheduled email, or you can download, of course, and some partners choose to create security groups. So you can create a security role where your clients could log in and have read or rewrite access to any particular page that you give them permission to see in the platform. So some folks like for them to have read access to be able to have this information in front of them, like a portal at any point. That same type of idea is really useful when it comes to the user reporting. So again, we pull over from your primary integration, but we also integrate with Microsoft 365. So we can use delegated credentials or direct credentials. And here folks like to answer the question, show me who's not in my primary integration that is in Microsoft 365. I need to see what license they have. Their last activity date goes red if they haven't logged in over 30 days, and it's red if MFA is disabled. So this starts to give you insights into the users. And frankly, we see this oftentimes as the very first thing folks do in the platform. So they want to get to their clients and say, you've got some security exposure around MFA being disabled. And, a lot of the cybersecurity experts say that just activating MFA everywhere gets you 84% of the way through some of the cybersecurity frameworks. So that's a pretty powerful component that we need. So that this report we see very popular. We can also add other components to this report. So we have integrations with a couple cybersecurity phishing training platforms, Breach Secure Now and Know Before. We have integrations with 2 SaaS monitoring tools, Saslio and Augment. And we have an integration with Smileback, a CSAT tool. We're adding more of each of those. So we always keep a running list of who our partners have voted for, and we just take the ones that have the most votes and build that integration next. If you're thinking, well, I want a Lifecycle and I want to know if Crewwho's on the list, you can just email info@lifecycleinsights.io. We'll add you to the voting board, and we'll also let you know where your vote stands. I mentioned Crewwho because that's next up. So I went and added Breach Secure Now to this list. So now we can see folks that have their cybersecurity phishing training, their latest employee secure score and phishing fail rate, etc. We also have each of those integrations that I mentioned standalone reports. So here I've got the Microsoft Secure Score report. So that's a big proponent for why we need to MFA. Breach Secure Now is included in those columns, but we also have a standalone report. So this is where you can have conversations around how are folks doing on their cybersecurity training. Augment and Saslio, right? Again, we're monitoring the applications. They're monitoring the applications and we're reporting off of it. So these reports are very familiar because they look like exactly like they do in their platforms. Smile back. So CSAT results. And lastly, we have a high level ticketing summary. So this is where you can give the high level review. I have been a customer success manager and I never wanted to do an autopsy of all of my tickets, but I did like to give a high level overview of this is what we've done for you recently. So this is convenient for that conversation. So any of those any of those reports can be added into your template for your business review, and more on that when I finish up the automation pieces. So we've automated the asset reporting, we've automated the user list. We can also pull over your contracts from Manage or Autotask. So if you are an IT Glue or Hoodoo shop and want those as secondary integrations, we can do that. We could do Manage or Autotask, or if that's your primary or secondary, we can import your contracts or agreements and additions from Manage because we're aiming to help you drive a budget for your partners. The important piece here is that if you're just delivering a budget around asset lifecycle management, a lot of folks tell us they almost hide their managed service agreement. That's not telling the true story, and you're not sort of showing that you believe in the value you're delivering to your client. But we also don't recommend just giving them a budget of here are the ways you pay me. We also suggest adding their cyber insurance policy renewal, their printer copier services, line of business application, phone services, ISP providers, etc. Because now you're drawing a much bigger budget and they're recognizing that technology isn't a part of their business, it's a part of their business. It's actually what's running their business. When they realize all of the contracts and subscriptions that they're paying for around technology, they will start budgeting for it like you would budget for payroll, right? So these things are must-haves, baseline requirements, table stakes for my company. And to have a budget put in front of them makes you a key stakeholder in their strategy and their business development. So it's a good way for managed service providers to really help drive the business conversation and become the trusted advisors that folks are always talking about. So all of those pieces that I've mentioned, the asset lifecycle management component, the contract piece, whether automated or manually entered, and those recommendations push forward to the budget forecast. Our budget forecasting is quite flexible, so we can give you detailed views or more high-level spreadsheet views. You can build budgets monthly, quarterly, or annually, and include any of those components that I talked about. Most of our partners send over either a 6-quarter or a 12-month show me every line item detail of what we need to do, in the next year, what assets are going to be removed, who's going to be impacted by a switch, etc. And then also a 3 or 5 year budget. So you can really start helping your partners project their business moving forward. This does a few things for you. If you've included their line of business application expense, or goodness knows, the cyber insurance policy, if you see that they're going to pay $30,000 for a cyber insurance rider in April's not the time to talk to them about that aged server, even if it's due then, right? Maybe you want to extend it 2 months, maybe you want to do it a little early, but you're not aiming to overlap the 1 month when they just wrote the huge check. So this gives you some strategy, also some opportunities for upsell. One, if you start tracking their cyber insurance policy, one of the assessments we have in the platform is an aggregation of 35 different cyber insurance carrier forms that Fifth Wall, a cyber insurance carrier, did for us, that helps you really define what your partners need to qualify for cyber insurance. That's eye-opening to them, and it certainly helps to support the argument of they need to MFA already. The other piece is that when you are ahead of conversations like when their printer or their phone services are becoming due, maybe you have a preferred VoIP provider that you want to use. And so you want to, get ahead of them, their cancellation period for their phone provider. So there's opportunity for the managed service provider beyond just the strategic element of delivering a budget for partners. So that's the bulk of the automation piece of Lifecycle Insights. So I'm going to jump into the assessment component next, and we can talk through that. And then we'll see how they tie together. So under the assessments, and one thing I like to point out here is assessments you can do for all of your partners. So on our pricing page, Lifecycle Insights lets you select the number of active clients that you want to put in the platform, right? So our free trial is at the 5 or 25 client package. And you can do assessments above and beyond this number for free. So that means you can do assessments for prospects or other existing customers until we assume once you get the data in there, they're going to want to start seeing more and more. You'll grow, we'll grow, etc. So let me show you our library of templates. So here are the templates that we have available. Sometimes our partners share additional templates that we put out to the community. So this list tends to grow. Here's the cyber insurance prep form that I mentioned. We have CIS V8 and CMMC. We also have our default assessment, which is pretty well the most popular version. Most folks either start with our default assessment and edit it to make it their own, or if you're coming from another platform, you'll import from there. So you can import from a CSV as well. So we're going to take a look at that default assessment. And I'm going to show you one that I have run on my imaginary prospect. So in a not surprising turn of events, right, our assessment is red, yellow, green as well. So you can just go and click whether they're at risk or needs attention or satisfactory. You can even add additional scores. So I added acceptable risk as an alternate response for that one. You can see I've got some public comments written there. I can add private comments, but I can also add scoring instructions and explanation remediation tips. So this is what lets you scale your process beyond a single person. If we can start documenting how we're going to score the assessment items, then someone else can start doing some of that data capture or the recommendations beyond that. I'll collapse the hardware category so we can take a look at some of the others. So we have questions around hardware, security, continuity, business application, policy and procedure, and strategy. Once I've scored the assessment, I want to give my client an overall summary. Now that assessment was over 100, I think that one was 70 items long. So that's a lot to go through in detail. And really, it's way too technical for the average small business owner. So to be able to start with a summary view in red, yellow, green is very powerful. The notion of gamifying it to get the red out and go green is very easy for folks to understand. And as a small business owner, I would say 40% is not a good score. And security is at a 21. Like, can you talk to me about what we would do to solve that problem? You should say, absolutely. There are two things, right? First, if you join our managed services platform right out of the gate, becoming a partner of ours, we would move the needle just by ripping and replacing and implementing some of our best practices. We would move the needle from a 40 to a 77. We do have some additional recommendations for you. We talked to you about, the 2 servers that are aging out. We want to replace those, and that would help move the needle even further. So once they see how you're going to move the needle for them, you can then define those other components. So now I can look at all 70 of the items and where they're red, yellow, green, etc. And I can grab some of these items. And this is where I think the magic of the MSP comes into play, because this is really where you're going to prioritize the work that needs to be done. So I'm going to create a recommendation from those items. So this is the same recommendation that you saw me in earlier when I grabbed the assets, right? So here I'm starting with the assessment component instead of the assets. I could add labor, material, recurring costs, or I could go ahead and keep those assets on there. I could say, yeah, I want all those expired operating systems. That's going to help solve this problem. Because that's really what we're trying to drive, is a remediation plan to help eliminate risk and solve their business pains and drive their business outcomes. So once I've built this recommendation, it'll land on our recommendation roadmap. So this is very Kanban board style, where I can drag and drop the recommendation into different columns. And these recommendations land on the budget forecast. So now when you're having the conversation with them and they decide, I do want to do that email migration, I want to do it in Q2, your budget forecast is automatically updated. So there's a lot of power in that. So that ties together the automation components with the assessment components, which really give you insights inside a particular client. So if you have questions on that piece, feel free to throw them in the chat. I am going to hop in and show you assessments across all clients before I show you the other reporting components. Once I've scored a single assessment across multiple clients, I can then get a view really into risks as well as opportunities. So I'll say, okay, let me take a look at the default assessment. Now let's look at the other one. So I've run this assessment, right? Down the left-hand side are my assessment items, and across the top are all of my clients. So I can see that Creative Designs has a lot of red, and I probably want to have a business review. Hogwarts, much more green, right? And then if I look across a single row, I can see particular standards and services that I might want to implement. Maybe I want to do a marketing campaign around switching for the folks that don't have switches, or around access logging, et cetera. So you can use this to start driving business conversations, et cetera. Once you have looked over the reports, so most folks get into Lifecycle, they clean up their data, they start looking at what that budget would look like, and then they build assessments from there. You certainly don't have to do it in that order, but that's if you don't have a plan to run an assessment first, we recommend getting the data cleaned up because that'll help inform the assessment piece. But after you've taken a look at a client environment and looked at their data and really understand what they need, you can start pulling together the reports that you want to build your business review. Let me see if I can grab a sample of our business review. I'll ask someone to send it to me. So when I'm in Report Builder, the notion here is that I can stack any of these components into a portfolio of all the reports I would want to deliver in a business review. So we typically find that what folks love about Lifecycle Insights is they don't have to go log into Smileback and into Breach Secure Now and into Microsoft to aggregate all this information. We can pull all those reports in one place to build your business review. So I've created a template that has the reports I want to share with my clients. So I've got an agenda, an executive summary, an assessment summary. A lot of folks ask me when they see the agenda, do you have a default agenda in the platform? For all of our items, we have a default, and then we let you edit it. So we have a sample agenda, we have a sample template of the business review, et cetera, because some folks are like, well, I want to see what else folks are doing out there. So as I'm clicking through, these reports should now look familiar. I've already built them before, and now they're just saved in the order I want. So I've got a 5-quarter budget, a 5-year budget forecast, and a 6-quarter budget forecast already built, established the way I want. And when I switch from Creative Designs to Get Well Medical Services, it rebuilds my stack of reports. So it's very fast once you get that initial setup done and have clean data in there, because it's just going to replicate the reports over and over again. I can download my report, or I can put it into presentation mode. The download can be downloaded in PDF or in Word doc. So if you have edits you want to make, that's fine as well. So if you are doing presentation mode, this saves you from having to build a PowerPoint slide deck. You can still work within the platform. So if I'm in the asset report, you can see I'm pre-swatched to the yellow and red warranty and end of life, but I can still jump into this jump box and get all of the data if the client wants some more information while you're having the conversation, but they don't see all the rest of the behind the scenes that maybe you didn't want to share with them. Reminder, which I had already talked about, you can create a custom security role so that if you wanted your clients to log in and have access to this, they could. Otherwise, you can present it in front of them and deliver the report to them. So I've covered most of the pieces at the top here, and I want to draw your attention to the pieces below the words MSP reports. Everything below MSP reports is across all of your clients. So we have the data quality report. When you first integrate and plug in all of your clients, the technical integration takes about 20 minutes. And then on our end, it takes about 40. So it's API keys, we go do warranty lookups, and then we give you a data quality score and we let you know exactly where and when you're missing data. Folks often ask, what do I do to clean up that data? So let me segue for a minute and talk about what onboarding looks like with us. We've got DIY onboarding. So we have a checklist right in the platform that walks you through the different articles and components. So we have a huge knowledge base and YouTube videos to support all of the pieces. We also have a weekly new to LCI call. So every Wednesday at 1 Eastern, we have a half an hour of canned content and a half an hour of Q&A. So a lot of folks, that's a 4-week cadence. That cadence, will repeat every 4 weeks. Some folks join for more than 4 weeks because they're always picking something up from someone else's Q&A. If you think, well, Wednesday at 1 just doesn't do it for me, that's not a problem, because if you click in help, this is our knowledge base. We have a welcome article. And if I click into this article, I have got the videos recorded. So I've got the 4 weeks of recorded videos and the bonus episode as well. So most folks start watching the data cleanup. And then after that, we'll jump on a call with us to talk about next steps. So there's no cost for onboarding calls. We're always happy to have a one-on-one with you and walk through next steps. Primarily, that first 30-minute video to get this data cleaned up is where you want to be, so you know you're delivering a full asset report. Because if you're missing assets for your asset reporting, you're missing opportunities and you're leaving security holes for your clients. Asset ad hoc is handy for a lot of reasons, but data cleanup is one of them. It might be you want to ask the question of, show me where all of my assets are missing an end of life date. Asset ad hoc means I'm going to run the report across all of my clients. So I can see I have 196 assets without an end of life date. So when I generate this report, I can see my whole end of life column is blue. And now I can start looking for patterns of ways we need to clean it up. And we have 5 little 3-minute videos of tips and tricks for how to clean up those assets. But this is a fast way to do it across all of your clients. I talked about recommendations earlier, showed the Kanban board. We also have a list view. When we look at recommendation roadmap down here, remember this is across all of your clients. So this is all of your clients, all of their recommendations, so you can do internal projections, right? Your CTO, your CFO loves this. Wait, you can tell me how many, what the labor cost will be that we're projecting for the next few quarters? Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of flexibility. You can narrow this down to specific clients. You can turn it on for just a material cost or labor costs, et cetera, to get a sense of the work you're doing internally. We also have a Microsoft 365 report that's across all clients. So this is just a matter of how many active licenses, how they've purchased, how many are consumed, and how many are left over. So they're paying for some licenses they don't need, will be highlighted here. And then lastly, we have the scheduler. So the notion for Lifecycle is, while we call them QBRs, I'm willing to say instead of quarterly business reviews, they are quality business reviews. And I will stop saying QBR as soon as folks stop Googling it. But the reality of it is not everybody deserves a quarterly business review. And it's important to determine a cadence that would be appropriate for each client. So the scheduler, you can decide which are quarterly, who deserves monthly, semi-annual, or annual. And when you click into one, you land in this business review tab where you can do a few things. Most folks start by kicking off a ticket to track prep time for a business review. So at the top here, this was originally one of these green buttons that say create PSA ticket. I start the ticket, it tracks time, and the status syncs back. As a matter of fact, if I click into it, I can actually view the ticket. I can open the ticket in my PSA, or I can unlink it if I don't need it anymore. But now I'm able to track prep time for a business review because that does impact your profitability. Down below, I can add individual meeting notes. So most folks add their business review notes as follow-up and say, okay, this recommendation was approved, but I want to ship that over to my project team in the PSA. So they do that as a ticket. So that's how folks are using the ticket capability in the platform. Hopefully that makes sense. So I was just sent the PDF of the QBR your customer deserves. So let me download this and put it into the chat. I will also send this out as a recording with the recording so that if you don't, if you're listening to this and you think, I want a copy of that, no worries. But for those of you on the call, it is loading now. So that should, okay, looks like it's sent to everybody. You should be able to see a download of the report itself. So this again is how you do your follow-up, and you can track progress. I'm like, great, all of the tickets that I opened after that last business review have been closed. So I know we're good to go and schedule the next business review. So I was asked, will there be MFA for when our team logs into LCI? Absolutely. You have two options, MFA or SSO. So you can enforce SSO or MFA. So you can do either one. You can set it up either way, both Google or Microsoft SSO. When you first sign up for the trial, you need to sign up you need to create an account with MFA, and then we can attach your SSO after that. But absolutely, there's MFA. We're all about MFA. Thanks for asking that. Other questions for me? While you think questions, I want to talk through a little bit more of this dashboard. There's quite a bit on the dashboard, and a lot of it you think, well, I would love my clients to see that, but I don't really want my clients to see that. So all of these tiles can be turned on or off for different security groups. So I could create a security group that was Creative Design's customer, and I could change this so they see 4 of the tiles and change it to see all of them. You get to decide what you want to see there. So you have the flexibility to customize this dashboard. You have multiple security groups that you can add, unlimited. So some folks have one security group for internal or a couple, maybe an admin and then a user role. And then co-managed folks, we see a lot of security roles that are designed for co-managed IT as well as end user, right? What does that team really need to see? So you can turn on or off any of the tiles for that group. At the top, you'll notice we have lots of options for filtering. So we can always filter by location, asset type, asset status, and then in the individual reports, we have a lot of filtering capabilities, so you can really narrow in on the items that you're most interested in. I'm going to export this single report real quick. So you can see, you can always add a logo. As a matter of fact, you can white label the page and add your logo to the upper left, so you don't see Lifecycle Insights. It just looks like your site, which especially if your clients are logging in, makes a ton of sense. You can always, again, add your logo to the reports. And this is a sample of the asset list report. So we give a cover page defining end of life and operating system status and warranty management. Why is it important? And why should your client care? And then dive into the actual assets that you have. Again, whatever you filtered by will be limited here. So the different reports have common branding so that you can see that it's a consistent report, but each one also has some unique elements that help to kind of define the importance of that particular report. So that is a good bit of what we have in Lifecycle. Are there other questions for me? I am going to throw into the chat the link for the free trial. And I see a question just came through, so give me a second for that. Oh, yes. So we always update our roadmap, but I have to say we're at the end of Q4, so our roadmap is nearly all built out. Great question, though. So you can always see what our product roadmap is. So this is the green is what's already delivered. And actually the supported integration, we haven't updated it since last weekend. Hoodoo is already in. So some of the integrations we have coming are CrewWho. You can see Fin Security on here. ID Agent, Simple Sat are some of the top ones that we have. Now that we have Hoodoo, the way that they share data, it may make it easier for us to get Atera and some other of the PSAs that we didn't already mention. If you have one in particular that you're thinking of, feel free to either send it to me or share it out to everyone, and I'll let you know if that's one that we have on the roadmap. But Ninja, so with Hoodoo, we are able to access some of the Ninja data. So that is one of the ones when we see what Ninja has through that, we may be able to do that one. I will have a better timing on the roadmap in 3 weeks when we have this one updated. So we meet in a shocking turn of events quarterly and do our own internal QBRs, quarterly business reviews. And I'll be able to share, again, it's public, so you don't have to be a Lifecycler to see it, but I'll be able to share which integrations will be out in Q1. I don't think Ninja 1 will be Q1. We like to be transparent about that, but we'll post it when we have our updates. Other questions about anything on the roadmap or in the platform? Then I will wrap with this. We are offering 3 different, so all onboarding in Lifecycle is always free. Unlimited calls, have a chat with us, whatever. But we are offering 3 things in January that are important. We're going to have a VCIO boot camp, which is typically $600 a seat. But when I send out this email, I'll have a coupon for you. And that is 4 weeks. And it really talks through the VCIO process and how to think through how you would set up your business review. And then we're offering 2 smaller boot camps, a $50 build your budget boot camp and a $50 seat assessment boot camp to define your assessment later in January. So all 3 will be in January. The VCIO bootcamp is once a week for 4 weeks with an hour of homework each week. And the other 2 are 2 hours on a Wednesday and then 2 hours of open office hours on a Friday to kind of do the work. So keep an eye out for that. Again, I will, because you signed up for this, I'll make sure you have all of those pieces and we'll follow up with you. Thanks a ton. I know we've already chatted once because that's how you got here. So I appreciate you coming a second time. And if you have more questions, I'm going to just it's just shorter. I am on the info@lifecycleinsights.io email. So you can always throw something out there and then you will get a follow-up email from me with this recording. And if you have more follow-up questions, you can reach out. Thanks so much. Hope everybody enjoys a peaceful week.